Well, hey guys, welcome to Miyagi Mornings episode 170. We'll give just a few moments today to allow people to come into the live streams and to check the other streams and make sure, well, that we're actually streaming. Checking Odyssey and Float now, and usually those things work. Odyssey was a bit of a little bitchy site today. It didn't want to save the feed for me, but it eventually did. And I might start putting less effort into setting up the Odyssey feed and just maybe the title over there, since it doesn't get published anyway and it's always ported over YouTube, just needs to be like episode 170 or something. And that way it can be done the day in advance. That'll fit in kind of what we're talking about today. We do seem to be running on Float. Is Odyssey working? Odyssey is showing me with my guest from yesterday. Nope, there I am. Okay, so we're on Odyssey, we're on Float, we're on YouTube. As always, I tend to see the comments on YouTube better because they get aggregated in. And I'm hoping that going forward, sites like Odyssey and Float can make their streaming to where a service like StreamYard will aggregate those comments in the way they do from Facebook and ScrewTube right now. Anyway, let's get ready to go. You guys ready? I'm ready. Let's get the podcast recording side up and running. Well, hi, folks. Welcome to Miyagi Mornings, episode 170. And today we're going to talk about taking a step back. And we're going to talk about that in a couple different ways. We're going to talk about it when you just need to do less work. We're going to talk about it when you just need to maybe eliminate something, period. Or when you need to streamline a process, or when you need to automate a process, or maybe when you need to hire some help. Like, there's a lot of ways that you can take a load off yourself. But I kind of wanted to talk about this from the standpoint of one of my laws of life, and kind of, admit that I don't always get it right with following my own advice. And this year I've really kind of put a beating on myself with my workload, and it's caused me, I think, to not maybe and sometimes perform as well as I should. But it's also caused me, like, you guys see the podcast, you see the videos and whatever, but you don't see my homestead. And like, this is the worst year for gardening I've had since before I started TSP. Because I just didn't pay the attention to it that I needed to. I did some reorganizing to give myself Fridays off, but I've increased my workload so much on the 4 days I'm working that when I get off on Friday, you know what I want to do? Nothing. And nothing carries into Saturday. And once you do nothing on Saturday, it's pretty easy to do very little on Sunday. And that's what's been going on since I made that change. Because I feel like I'm working harder than ever before, but I'm doing it with 4 days on and 3 days off. I'm cramming 6 days a week into 4. So I'm going to make some changes. And this comes from my law of life, which is basically that we as human beings are batteries. And batteries require two things if they're going to have a long life, especially a long, effective, productive life. They need recharging and they need maintaining. You can't just hook shit up to a battery and drain it and think that anything's going to happen other than that battery's going to die. Now, as humans, since we are in some level self-recharging, as long as we eat and we get oxygen and we don't get really sick, we kind of keep going. But if we don't maintain ourselves and we don't take time specifically to recharge, actually get sick is exactly what we will tend to do. I am not a believer in this idea, healthy people never get sick. That's just stupid. That's ignoring reality. That's not scientific. That doesn't make any sense. Healthy people get sick. It happens all the time. The truth, though, is that healthy people get sick far less, and they deal with illnesses, colds, flus, infectious diseases, etc., far better. And they're far more likely to survive if they get something like a cancer or something like that. They're far more likely to survive, thrive, beat it. So we definitely want to be healthy. There's truth to that. But the idea that you never get sick if you're healthy is just, it's nonsense. It's total nonsense. And anybody that says it, at the point you say that, I'm the guy that's like, okay, now I know not to listen to anything you have to say ever again because it's nonsensical. But stressed, unhealthy, etc., more likely to get sick, more likely to get severely sick, etc., is absolutely the case. Because when you're stressed, that's the case. How many of us have had gardens? You go out and you see Some of your plants are completely destroyed by some sort of a fungus or disease. Some of your plants clearly have it, but they're surviving through it. And some of your plants look like they don't have anything. And people say, well, if the soil's healthy, then the plants will be healthy. Well, they're all in the same soil. One way or another, some sort of microclimate, some sort of stress factor has prohibited the plant from taking up the nutrient that's making the other plant safe or from that particular ailment or able to survive the infection of that ailment. So it is probably a nutrient deficiency, but the nutrient deficiency isn't because the nutrient's not in the soil. Maybe this plant gets not enough sun. Maybe this plant gets too much sun. Maybe these plants in the middle, the microclimate is they get just the right amount of sun on a daily basis where they can properly take up all that work you did in their soil. And human beings, we are like this. So I want to, one, help you guys figure out where you need to do this today and how you need to do this today for yourself. And on the other hand, I want to kind of use it as an announcement for some things that I'm going to be doing. It's not going to be that big a deal for you guys, but I think it's going to be a big deal for me. And that's what I tried to do. I tried to figure out, well, how can I make some really small adjustments right now that will make my life have a little bit less stress on it and give me a little bit more time to worry about things on my homestead so that I have more content for you guys from a standpoint of, look what I'm doing, instead of, hey, look, my garden sucks this year, right? And one of the things I thought is, well, this very thing right here, Miyagi Mornings, this all started in November last year at my workshop, where it was the first workshop, I think, since I started doing them, where I really stayed sober all the way through until the night we did the tasting at the end. And I really got to be interactive with the presentations and all. I got things so organized that I didn't get drug all over the place. Like, I want to see what this person has to say, right? And Jack. I've got everything chill now, man. I can be at a workshop and I don't have to walk 5 steps and hear my name yelled. And so I got to be involved with it, not just as someone putting the show on, but someone actually being there through the whole thing. And I've got my health together and all that. So I came out of that, and it was something that, a little bit of what everybody said, but it was really Jessica Mills that after I listened to what she had to say, I'm like, I need to do more. And I started Miyagi Mornings as more. And it was simple, and it was fast, and it was easy, and it was unedited. It had no production values, nothing like what we do now with the live streams. But it was still more. It was still another thing. It was still 5 a day. And now I'm putting as much effort sometimes into one of these for a morning show as I did for my podcast back in the beginning when I was doing them from my car or when I first started doing them from my home office. So now it's like I'm doing 4 podcasts a day plus 4 Miyagis a week, or 4 podcasts a week and 4 Miyagis a week. And the Miyagis are almost their own podcast. So I've gone from doing 5 podcasts a week thinking I'm giving myself a break to doing 8. That doesn't work. So what I'm going to do is my busiest day of the week is Wednesdays. So Miyagi Mornings is not going away. And we're not going to stop doing kind of this cool interactive thing because I love being here with you guys. I love seeing your comments. It's a total, and I love presenting this way. It's a total different dynamic presenting in video in a live stream than it is, standing in front of a camera, and just doing it and knowing I can make anything I screw up go away, right? And then actually having people to talk to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Miyagi Mornings on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. And I'm not going to do a Miyagi on Wednesday. That right there took 25% of the workload created by Miyagi Mornings, and it's gone. And since these have gone from being 8 to 12 minutes to 20 to 30, it's actually still more content than when I first started doing them. And it's plenty of content to do a Friday podcast for those that want to consume it in audio. So the Miyagi Mornings on Friday recap will be 3 episodes. It'll be an hour and 10 minutes. It's plenty for a podcast. That was a real easy decision to make. The other thing is, while I'm doing all this, and I realize that you take work on and you don't even realize what you've done to yourself. I created Unloose the Goose. I got people together and we created Unloose the Goose. We did a great episode last night. It was fantastic. I'm not going to stop doing Unloose the Goose. But what I'm going to do is, in the beginning, trying to get it going, I made every single episode. And I put a team together so that didn't have to happen. So now, through this and directly, I'm letting my co-geese know Jack will be at 2 of them a month, every other week. And that's what I've been doing for the last month, figuring they'll figure it out on their own when it happens, right? But either the gaggle flies without me every other week, or there is no gaggle that week. That's how it's going to be. Like, I think that we've created something really great there. And I'm actually looking to expand the gaggle so that everybody can do that. I want everybody to be able to take, every other week off. If you do 2 a month, that should be plenty. Like, we all have things to do. That's one more thing. And the dynamic of bringing different people with different opinions to discuss things and debate things, argue things, fundamentally figure out solutions is great, but I can't pull all the weight. And I'm not saying that I haven't. I'm just saying I can't let myself trick myself into pulling the weight and always being there. I'll keep doing the editing for my fellow gaggle members. They can do on a week I'm not there. I'll take the file, I'll edit it, I'll upload it, and Nicole does a great job. But it's just something like I have to be. Like I said, I've already been doing it for a while, but I need to make sure that everybody that's part of that team knows that. Like, if you want this to be a weekly show, then you guys are going to have to. Some of you are going to have to like make it happen on the weeks that I'm not there. And those two things are going to do a great deal for me already. That's already going to take, because part of it is, even when I don't do an episode, I feel compelled to do it, like stating it and being firm with it. That's going to help a lot. So I really hope that makes sense to you guys. Like, and then the other thing I'm going to do, I was out looking at like the terrible state of my gardens this year and going, this is insane, man. I love this and I'm not doing it because I'm so worn out. And I look at so many things that I got this close to taking into the point of automating them, and I never did. And so we're going to automate those. I figured out how to automate the wicking beds this morning in my aviary. I was just like, you know what? I'm not going to try to get it, because I've been doing this week. I've been trying to get ahead of it. If I just start earlier, I'll be done sooner. And then that just makes more work is what it ends up doing. So I'm like, today, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stay outside with my birds. I'm going to enjoy my shit. I'm going to drink coffee. And I'm going to see to some of the stuff that I should have been seeing to. And I realized with my wicking beds out there, they're in 100-gallon Rubbermaid stock tanks. I have so many weeds growing them because I haven't seen to it. I've been thinking about covering them like with a tarp or something. But there's some good peppers and stuff in there, even with my neglect this year. And I was like, that's going to be a pain in the ass. And how am I going to do this? And I was thinking, my peppers are going to be done in another couple months. And you plant some winter stuff in there. And it's really a summer system anyway. It's a spring-summer system anyway. And I realized, like, okay, so you have these pipes that stick out of them. That sets your water level. Why don't you just put a cap on the pipe, fill them all the way up, and drown all the weeds like they do with a rice paddy? Stick a hose in there, fill them up. And then break them off into 3 sections and take that pond you have in there and, every day let that pond run water through them for 15 minutes once a day. That'll keep them all topped off. And you just change a valve each day. And that's all you'll have to do. And they'll never need to be filled up manually again. Why didn't you do that before? Well, because you didn't think of it. Why didn't you think of it? Because you're stressed out trying to do 100 different things. And so I'm wondering, like, you guys out there, are there any things on your property or in your life that you could in some way automate? And like, how much time would that give you back? And there's 2 ways it works. 1, it either gives you the time back, or 2, in spite of the fact that you don't go do it when you're supposed to, it still happens. My friend David, he sells automation to people. And I don't mean he doesn't actually sell a automation product or system. He sells them the idea. Like, you should do this, right? And the way he sells that idea is, what would you do if you didn't have to do it? What would you do if you didn't have to do it? And I challenge all of you to kind of look at your homestead and say, this little thing that takes you 15 minutes to do every day. Now, if you really love doing it, you're not lying to yourself, but you love doing it, you probably shouldn't automate that. You probably should do that thing every day. If it makes everything really work for you, right? You should keep doing it. But if you don't really love it, automate it. You can just, if you decide that day you want to spend 15 minutes with that thing, go watch it do it itself for 15 minutes and drink a cup of coffee. You'll be all right. And so there's ways we can automate things on our homestead. There's ways we can automate things in our businesses. If you can automate so that when you do something, your email list gets notified immediately and you don't have to take a second step, do that, right? We've some things I've done this year with the help of Tom. my guy that does all my web stuff and all, was like, we automated so that when I do a post at the Survival Podcast, it posts itself to Discord, and then Discord posts it to Telegram. So I don't have to touch it. And I just think I have to figure out more things like that I can do. There's also more than one way to automate a process. I think we have to define what does automate mean? Automate to me means the thing that I need to happen just happens. So that can be done with robotics or computers or timers, or, the most simple form of automation in the world would be a timer that goes into an electrical outlet, and it's on off. It's 1 and 0, right? And if you have that, then anything that can be simply turned on and turned off, and if you set up what happens when power comes on and power goes off, that's automation. It's already happened. That's one form of automation. Other forms of automation are more complex. Maybe this thing comes on and this valve opens, and then this thing goes off and this valve closes, and the next time this thing comes on, a different valve opens, and then we can zone something like irrigation. That's a little more complex, but it's still pretty much 1 and 0 here, and 1 and 0 here, and 1 and 0 here, and 1 and 0 here. It's pretty simple. And that's when we say automation. Everybody's mind goes to this type of thing. If you have like that robotic thing that worked on like a CNC driven deal that basically weeded the garden for you, they think that way. You know what another form of automation is, though? People. It's automation for you. If you hire someone to do a few tasks for you and they're worth the money that you pay them, if the return that you get from that person's actions are higher in value than what you paid them, essentially it's not automatic for them, but as long as they show, as long as they don't break, you've now automated something else. And one of the things I realized is for quite a few years here, when we had a commercial duck egg operation, I had a farmhand, and all this little piddly shit, like when they would get done with the things they had to do every day, I'd say, well, go weed this garden, or go move these pools, or go do this thing, or, hey, do you know how the tractor works without breaking it? Okay, then you can go mow this field or whatever. And, maybe I need to look at doing that again. My concern with that is, and this is something for any of you thinking about hiring a hand like that or something, is what made that work was the commercial ducks. It really was. And the reason it made it work is every day that person came here, I didn't deal with, well, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Right? Like, they had a base level of operations that they had to take care of. They would show up. Here's all the dirty duck eggs since the last time you were here. Clean them, package them, put them away, and, go take care of the duck pools, move them to the next location, fill them up, whatever. They had that base level of operation. And so they had about an hour of work when they showed up. And then I could just say, oh, and today also, and I had time once they showed up to think about what I needed from them that day. Because, we're not a large enough operation where there's a clear work flow, and the kind of person you're going to hire to do this is going to be like a teenage kid or something. And they're not going to develop, at least anytime quick, this ability to say, hey, I saw this. Should I go take? You're going to have to direct them. And if you're going to hire people, that can end up being more work. You have to hire smart, and I don't mean smart people. It'd be great if you could, but you have to hire from a standpoint of smart for your own system. So you have to know, I'm going to need about 3 hours of work out of these people. And then you have to sit on your Saturday maybe and make a plan for what they're going to do. So when they show up, you can have them do it. And then you got to train them. And if you're constantly churning through people, and that's part of why I haven't done it without having that base level. Because like in a week, you can tell this guy's going to work out or not if you have that base level to evaluate them on. If you're moving them to different tasks, it's hard. But can you make videos of how you automate? Yeah, that's what I need, Steady Presence. I need one more thing to do. Are you not getting the subject today? How about this? Like, since you could actually make money doing that, and why don't you go why don't you go learn how to automate and make videos of how to automate and make money on it? And then I can watch your videos and I can learn how to automate, and I can automate my shit by learning from you. And then I can be like, hey, he's got this badass stuff, guys. Go look at it. And then you can actually have a successful business too. Wouldn't that be cool? Like, and I don't mean to pick on you or anything, but like I'm sitting here talking about taking a step back. And I got somebody throwing comments on me about doing more work. And right now I'm not doing more work. I've actually got another project that I'm working with a partner on, but they've taken a specific portion of it where I pretty much have to show up and present and teach. So I can do that. And when I do that, I may actually pull back some other things while we get that done. And then that creates an evergreen product. And that's what you guys need to start thinking about. How can you do work that keeps working for you? Because even though I'm kind of like worn out right now and need to do some adjusting, you know, episode 1 of the Survival Podcast, done all the way back in 2008, that's on a website that will deliver it to anybody that looks for it and clicks it, is still doing work for me. And 2,900 plus episodes of the podcast, and every one up until the one I have to do today is still doing work for me. It's in Google, it's in Yahoo, it's in all the search engines, it's in all the aggregation services. It's all out there still doing all the videos, all the Miyagi videos I've done this year, right up to 170 now. They're still doing work for me. And that's part of what I think you have to do is you have to start thinking about if you're going to do these things for yourself, how do you leverage them? So there's other forms of automation, right? YouTube, Odyssey, etc. These are forms of automation. We put up a video and it's on-demand content for people anytime they want to see it. And if that video drives traffic, makes direct ad revenue money, promotes a product, promotes a service, promotes a brand, then when you're sleeping at 3 o'clock in the morning and somebody's bored and they're up Googling shit or searching for shit on YouTube, your business is working for you. You know, I've explained this to my grandson, and I'm trying to get him thinking this way already at 10. How, like, when we're fishing on a Friday morning, I'm making money through automation and through process and through business. And that should be part of this if you're an entrepreneur. If all you are is a homesteader with a job, then the automation should gear toward your homestead. But even with your job, like, what can you automate at your job and not tell your employer about? You know, how can you bring some piece of the concept of the 4-hour work week from Tim Ferriss to your job if you can? How can you make your life easier or better? And I think one of the things that people have a big misconception about, and I want to wrap up today, is the idea that if you're going to do a thing anyway, videoing it, documenting, and putting on YouTube is just a little bit more. If you actually want to be able to create videos that show a process, like I'm starting out with some buckets and a timer and some pipes. And this is how I'm going to assemble them, put them together, and make a hydroponic system out of that. If you start making your own videos, you will have a new appreciation for content creators immediately. Because honest to God, you will put, even with what looks like a low production value, just making sure lighting's right, angles are right, you got this, you pieced it together right, you will do more work on the production side than on the doing side. I can build a system in maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. If I document it, it'll take me 2 days. If I'm actually concerned with documenting it to the point that you'll be able to do it. And that's why most of my videos on systems, you'll see, well, here's the system, 20% built. There's what it does. Okay, catch you later. Because that's what I can do. And I guess I'll throw that out as my final piece of advice. Like, don't think that since I'm here saying I need to take a bit of a step back from work today, that I'm in any way downplaying the value of doing this and having a hard work ethic. Like I said, I was 36 years old when I started the Survival Podcast. And I'm 49. It says something about the longevity of the show and the longevity of the brand, but it also says something about the body of the man doing it, right? Like, I feel like I'm in way better shape today than I was 10 years ago, physically, like as far as my weight and my overall health. But I'm still 10 years older. And, you know, there's a joke that your extended warranty runs out for men somewhere around 44, 45 years old. That's when shit starts breaking for real. I think there's some truth in it. There's a lot we can do to keep the body running longer, healthier, faster, metaphorical oil changes and whatnot. But in the end, I'm 13, almost 14 years older than when I started. And that's part of, I think, what got me into this is my mind is still that 30-year-old that was running multiple companies that would work 16-hour days. And I'm just not there anymore. And I also had to come to terms with the fact that that's okay. That's okay. I'll still outwork 99% of people, and that's good enough. And I'm going to keep doing that. And I will tell you one more thing that brought this to a head for those of you that caught the stream on Monday. Monday's stream about life after the military cracked something open for me about my life and about many of the things that I talked about the mistakes that you make in your life. And, you know, when you're 27 years old and you're not nice to someone, I'll put it to you that way, that you really had no, like, I'm fine with like hammering somebody that needs hammering, but when you hammer somebody and they didn't have it coming, and you don't figure out until 15 years later, the reason I did that all the way back then, and it was bad enough that you remember it, is because of this shit that was in my head. It's hard. It's hard. That's why if you were here for the Monday live stream, you saw at the end of it, instead of hanging out like I usually do, I was like, I'm done, guys. I realized that had happened. And I've kind of struggled this week because of that. And I don't mean deeply emotional, walled up in a ball, rocking back and forth or something like that. I just mean that, like, I haven't been myself. And I think that's a good thing because it actually led me to this point where I realized, like, and I texted my wife yesterday, I'm like, I'm sorry I've been a bastard this week. And I need to take a step back and just stop doing some things. And I immediately got like a you know, like she was like excited about it. And I'm like, yeah, that tells me that I'm on the right track here. So anyway, guys, that will end it for this week. I'll be back on Monday with another set of the series of Miyagi Mornings. And I will hang out and chat with you guys in the live feed for a bit here. I really do challenge all of you to think about, you know, this coming week, if you have like homestead activities and stuff, get a shitty little notebook or just some paper off your printer or something, fold it in half like a book and put it on the thing. And like, if you water something or anything you do, write what you did when you started and when you stopped. And like I said, you really have to start thinking about this more like a business manager in your own life. And if you're like, well, it only takes me 15 minutes to water. So let's just say that'd be an easy one. Well, 15 minutes every day, right? That's a significant amount of time. What's that, an hour and 45 minutes a week? Can you take that hour and 45 minutes back? And with that hour and 45 minutes, would part of it be better spent, 20, 30 of it one day, having a drink, sitting on the porch, talking to your kids or your grandkids or petting your dog, or just doing absolutely nothing? Like, sometimes I think we need to do absolutely nothing. And if we don't take time to do absolutely nothing, then the time we're spending doing things, we're less productive in it. I believe that, like, it doesn't matter if you work 80 hours a week if your work is shit. And if you could do better work in 40 than 80, you should probably be working 40. And the way that you get that done is that you figure out the things that you're spending time on that you shouldn't be. And part of this also makes me wonder, like, do I need like a virtual assistant in my business or something like that? Because there's a lot of stuff that I do that, should I be doing that? Should I be worried about cutting and pasting something and posting it to social media? On some levels, I feel like I have to. And the reason I still do is because when you respond, I respond, right? Like but I can have somebody do that part and I could just cruise through in the evening while I'm sitting on the porch and answer you. I don't need to maybe do that, but it's always felt to me like a lot of the things that I do that are unnecessary for me to do, I do them so quickly and efficiently that it would actually take me more time to make sure somebody else was doing it for me than to do it myself. I have people all the time reaching out to me, hey, what if I took over your editing of your podcast? And then they say, all I need from you is blah, 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 blah every day. And I'm like, by the time I do blah, 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 my podcast is edited, uploaded, and published. And that's not because I'm really good at it. It's because I don't make it hard, right? I've streamlined a lot of shit. I get guests on all the time, and they're like, well, so when's this going to air? We're done at like 2:00 in the afternoon. I said, it'll be up by 3. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, it'll be it'll be published by 3:00 at the latest. Maybe 3:30 if I'm going to eat lunch before I publish it. And they don't understand. Well, I take the front end, the back end, stick it together in a timeline, throw music on both sides of it, and go render. And when it pops out, I go upload. I drop it into the show notes, so it's already written before the show's done. How much time does that take? It doesn't take very long if you get good at it. And so, I don't know where I can put that in. I really don't know. I don't know that having somebody post my social media shit for me every week from the show would really save me much time at all. So I think you also have to be smart about it. So you're not spending money to hire someone just to create more work for yourself or to end up right back where you were. That doesn't make sense either. Let's see. Ika Mouse 1 says, what are you trying to do? Sell me an e-bike, dude, especially with that name. Perhaps, Jeff, get an e-bike and take a break for a bit. My electric 2.0 ride via FedEx, being able to get away quickly and have some fresh air is never bad. Yeah, all I would get from an e-bike where I live is killed by a truck. I got plenty of outside fresh air anytime I want, man. And I don't mind pedaling a bike either. But yeah, an e-bike on 9 Mile Road. There's these guys, they ride 12-speed bikes, with the spandex, and the aerodynamic helmets and shit. And it'll either be Saturday or Sunday most weeks. 50 or 60 of them come by in this massive mob going down my road. And I'm like, I don't know how you guys haven't had anybody killed yet. And you see people just infuriated because they stretch out half a mile long. And it's one thing when they come down my road because it's dead straight most of the way. But there's this windy-ass road that they drive on. And, they are bike tards, dude. You're absolutely right. Crockpot Broccoli says we call them bike tards. Yeah, the bike tards, they ride on this road called Silver Creek. And those that have been here, if you've been on Silver Creek, there's giant freaking gravel trucks and dirt trucks coming out of this place called Silver Creek Materials. And it's all day long, every day. These trucks are rolling back and forth, bringing materials, taking materials. And this road is windy as shit. And these guys their top speed is probably 25 miles an hour. Maybe if they're going downhill a little bit, 30-ish. And then they're strung out like this so you can't get around them. And there's these giant trucks. And as far as I know, nobody's ended up underneath one of them yet. And I wonder how. I think bikes are a great idea. And I think there's places where bikes naturally fit into commuting. And then there's places where they don't. They just don't fit in. Part of what, and this is true, outside, I think the overall idea, get outside, get fresh air, is a great idea. And I think one of the reasons I'm always stressed this time of the year, July, August, September, it's about 1,000 million degrees outside. In August, when I go outside, and it's the crack of dawn to take care of the birds, and all you do is dump 13 tubs and fill them up with water. It's not exactly exhilarating hard work. And you come in, you're like, I got to take a shower. He's just friggin' sweat all over your body, and you stink, and you don't want to be out in that. And that's first thing in the morning. What do you think it's like when I get done work at 3 or 4 o'clock? You don't want to be out there. So I think there is something to it that I spend way too little time outdoors in the summer. And, years ago, before we got into all this homesteading and having animals and all kind of really anchors you to a property. We also didn't have grandkids yet and didn't know how that was going to work out. But Dorothy and I had this plan for a while of having a northern and a southern location and literally migrating snowbird style. And that might have been a good idea. But now I look at it and go, yeah, what if that was what if I picked for my northern one, we were looking around the Finger Lakes region of New York or some of the upper Michigan areas and stuff, and this COVID shit's going on. I don't want to be there either. So I don't know, man. But yeah, definitely getting out more. And I think that's, by the way, it's why we have COVID spikes in the South right now. People stay inside more. People do indoor activities in the summer here, just like they do indoor activities in the winter up north. Anyway, guys, I hope you Arizona monsoons have made this summer amazingly tolerant, pleasant even, partially tied to the Gulf hurricane activity from Catskills. You know what? I do have to say that about this year. We've gotten way more rain And we have dew we had dew on the grass in August, let alone September, right? And I've had people come visit me in this time of year from like the Northeast. And I remember one guy named Chris, he was outside, and I look out, I'm getting my coffee. It's like friggin' 5:45 in the morning, and he's taking a walk on the property. And all the grass is just freaking, like, this year the grass is actually green-ish. Like, it's just brown. It looks like hay. It doesn't even look like hay. It looks like straw. You walk on it, it sounds like potato chips. And I see him out there, and again, it's just barely light. I can barely see him. And he's bending over, and he's touching the grass. And I'm like, I know what he's doing. So I go out. He goes, where's the dew? I'm like, we don't have no dew here in the summertime. What are you talking about? Because, you know, up north, it can not rain for weeks, and you still have, like, everything thrives because there's the huge dew drop every night. When I was at Ben Falks in Vermont, he said, we're in the middle of a drought. And I'm like, everything's green. What do you mean drought? He goes, it hasn't rained for 14 days. I'm like, shut up. And then that night, it was so beautiful out that I set a dome tent up, and it had a mesh top. And I wanted to lay in my tent and look at the stars from his beautiful place. So I did that. And so that meant I didn't put the rain fly on. Well, there's no rain in the forecast. I woke up, I was soaking wet laying in that tent, man. It was just like just saturated. Like, I ended up having to hang up all my gear to dry out and everything throughout the day. And yeah, so like people that come from up there, I think they don't get it. Like, we have somebody here from Arizona and et cetera. Like, this southwestern climate is a different animal. Anyway, guys, thanks for letting me vent a little bit. And hopefully it was also helpful for you guys today as well. And those of you that are entrepreneurs, try not to make this shirt too true. I have another version of this shirt. It's a little bit more adult. It says, my boss is an asshole. By the way, I'm self-employed. Like, and I've always said that about myself. Like, I'm the toughest slave driving boss you'll ever meet when I'm the one working for me. And I think there's a lot to be gained from that. But there's also a lot to be gained from treating yourself the way you actually treat the people that work for you. Like, I am a lot easier on people that work for me, or I was when I had people work for me, than I was ever on myself. Because I know if I push them too hard, they won't respect me, they'll hate me. And if I push them too hard, they'll quit. And I know if I push them too hard, eventually their work will suffer. I need to find that balance, how hard I push them, and reward them well enough that I build their loyalty and their trust, and they will work even harder for me without me pushing anymore. And I think we need to learn to do that for ourselves. The problem is we become so motivated if we do it right that we overwork ourselves. And I challenge all of you to, you know, give yourself an extra break once a week, even just 15 minutes you normally wouldn't take. Go have a drink or take a walk or pet a dog or whatever does it for you. But I would say the one thing to do with that 15 minutes or not to do with that 15 minutes, don't do this. Get away from this. The computers, the noise, the news, the media. If some of you are into video games, checking your crypto balances, whatever, just something that totally takes you out of it. With that, I hope you guys enjoy it. I got to get on producing the Expert Council show of the week today and putting together the Miyagi Mornings recap for those of you that consume it either twice or in that format. Of course, then you wouldn't be listening to me. Take care, guys. Have a good day.